Well, but I want to know, I mean, the pervasiveness of your quotes is so much that it has to be more than that. It has to be more than just an episodic mistake that you made. Well, here, let me keep going. See if this helps you any. What did you mean when you said you wish that you had been able to be transparent, but you'd rather have the law than not?
Once again, it was my trying to conjecture about a political process in which I'm not an expert.
Well, what did you mean when you said it was written in a tortured way to make sure the CBO didn't score the mandate as a tax?
Once again, it was using inappropriate language to try to sound impressive about something to my colleagues.
You see a trend developing here, Professor Gruber?
I don't understand the question.
It's a lot of stupid quotes you've made. That's the trend.
A lot of
you see them?
Inexcusable quotes. Yeah.
Right. And again, your defense is that you're not a politician. The lack of transparency is a huge political advantage. Well, what does a non-politician do in talking about political advantages?
A non-politician is talking about political advantages to try to make himself seem smarter by conjecturing about something he doesn't really know.
So you're a professor at MIT and you're worried about not looking smart enough?
Yes.
Okay. Well, you succeeded, if that was your goal. Now, I want to ask you, are you sorry, when did you realize that these comments were inappropriate? Because it took you about a year to apologize, so I'm trying to figure out if you realized sooner that they were inappropriate, or was it just the morning before you went on MSNBC that you realized that it was inappropriate? When did you realize that these comments are indefensible and inappropriate?
I honestly didn't remember making them.
You didn't remember calling your fellow citizens stupid, and you didn't remember saying that you're the only person who cares about the uninsured, that the rest of your fellow citizens don't give a damn about the uninsured? You don't remember saying that?
I don't, because they were really glib and thoughtless comments that I made.
Well, Professor Gruber, let me just tell you what it looks like from this vantage point, is that you thought that they were really pithy and really funny until the video showed up. And then even then, it took you a little while to apologize. And what I'm struggling with is whether your apology is because you said it or because you meant it. Which are you apologizing for? Because you said it or because you meant it?
I didn't mean it. I'm apologizing.
All of these quotes that I just read to you, you didn't mean a single one of them. Not a one.
What I've said, Congressman, is that I was using glib, thoughtless, and really inexcusable language.
You used them a lot. You used them a lot, Professor Gruber, which tends to undercut the notion that you were sorry for an episodic misstatement. I just read to you about 10. Do you see why people might possibly think the apology is a little disingenuous? Maybe.
Diplomatic security, is that correct?
It provoked a discussion, Congressman, about balancing of risk.
Madam Secretary, I had a chance to read that. I wanted to only read the executive summary that ran 25 pages, but it didn't have a word about diplomatic security in those entire 25 pages of the executive summary. Not one word, Madam Secretary. And then I read the remaining pages, amounted to 270 plus. Do you know how many pages of those 270 had to do with diplomatic security?
It was about the balancing of risk and reward, which
Madam
was
Secretary,
not only about diplomatic security specifically, but about the larger question of our mission around the world.
Madam Secretary, there was no balance. There was 2 pages out of 270 pages. You talked about a lot of things in there. You talked about a lot of improvements, but it didn't have anything to do with diplomatic security in any material way in that report. You talked about being disappointed, too. I've heard you use that several times. You were disappointed. You read the ARB. Why don't you fire someone? In Kansas, Madam Secretary, I get asked constantly, why has no one been held accountable? How come not a single person lost a single paycheck connected to the fact that we had the first ambassador killed since 1979? How come no one has been held accountable to date?
Well, Congressman, the Accountability Review Board pointed out several people working in the State Department who they thought had not carried out their responsibilities adequately, but they said that they could not find a breach of duty. And
Yes, ma'am.
The personnel rules and the laws that govern those decisions were followed very carefully.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not asking what the ARB did. I'm asking what you did.
I followed the law, Congressman.
So
that was my
Madam
responsibility.
Secretary, you're telling me that you had no authority to take anyone's paycheck, to cause anyone to be fired. You're telling me you were legally prohibited from doing that. Is that your position here this morning?
It is my position that in the absence of finding dereliction or breach of duty, there could not be immediate action taken.
Yes, ma'am. The decision was to put these back at full back pay and keep them on as employees. That was the decision that was made as a result of the processes that you put in place. I will tell you, the folks in Kansas don't think that is accountability. I want to do some math with you. Could I get the first chart, please? Ma'am, I will tell you that the record that we've received today does not reflect that. It simply doesn't. We've read the emails. We've read everything that we could get our hands on. It's taken us a long time to get it, but I will tell you, you just described all of this other information that you relied upon, and it doesn't comport with the record that this committee has been able to establish today. And I want you to take a look at this chart to the left. You'll see the increasing number of requests, over 600. I think data matters. The pictures are worth a lot. You see the increase in the requests, and then the bottom line is the increase in security. And you'll note that the slope of those two lines is very different. Can you account for why that is? Why we have an increase in requests and yet no increase in security?
Well, Congressman, I can only tell you that I know a number of requests were fulfilled and some were not.
Yes, ma'am. I wish you to listen to those security professionals. You described Mr. Stevens as having the best knowledge of Libya of anyone. Your words this morning. And yet, when he asked for increased security, he didn't get it. The second chart. It's the same thing. I just talked to you about requests for additional assistance. This chart goes through. I won't go through the numbers in detail. We've talked about them a bit, but it shows the increasing number of security incidents at the facility, your facility, State Department facility in Benghazi, Libya. And then again, it shows the increase in security being non-existent. I assume your answer is the same with respect to the fact that we have increasing security incidents, but no corresponding increase in the amount of security?
Congressman, I just have to respectfully disagree. Many security requests were fulfilled. We'd be happy to get that information for the record. Yes. So I can't really tell what it is you're putting on that poster, but I know that a number of the security requests were fulfilled for Benghazi.
Yes, what it shows is that the number of direct diplomatic security agents at the beginning of 2012 and those that were there the day of the murder of 4 Americans is no different. May I put the next poster up, please? Madam Secretary, you're not likely to know who these two folks are, do you?
I do not.
The one on the left is Mohammed al-Zahawi. He was the head of Ansar al-Sharia, a jihadist group based in Benghazi. The man on your left is Wissam bin Hamid. Were you aware that your folks in Benghazi, Libya, met with that man within 48 hours before the attack?
I know nothing about any meeting with him.
On September 11th, on the day that he was killed, Ambassador Stevens sent a cable to the State Department talking about with Mr. bin Hamid. Are you aware of that cable?
No, I'm not.
He said in his cable, he said they, referring to Mr. Wissam bin Hamid, they wanted an introductory meeting. They were here. They asked us what we needed to bring security to Benghazi. So your officials were meeting with this man on the ground in Benghazi, Libya, discussing security 2 days before that. But in August of that same year, the United States government had said that this very man was, quote, a young rebel leader who allegedly fought in Iraq under the flag of al-Qaeda. Were you aware that our folks were either wittingly or unwittingly meeting with al-Qaeda on the ground in Benghazi, Libya, just hours before the attack?
I know nothing about this, Congressman.
I think that's deeply disturbing. I think the fact that your team was meeting with folks...
I'm sorry, which team is this, Mr.
Yeah, it would have been... We don't know exactly who...
Well, it would be helpful...
It would have been one of your State Department employees, Madam Secretary. I don't know which one. Perhaps you could enlighten us or we can get the records we need to do so.
Well,
to date, we've not been able to learn that.
Well, we have all available video footage from that evening.
It does not, sir.
Why not?
Sir, we have provided that video that we have to this committee.
All of it.
We have shown 2 clips. We have not shown all of it. No,
That's not my question, Director. You just said that Congress has a constitutional responsibility to provide oversight.
Yes.
You just agreed with me that Ranking Member Cummings and Chairman Chaffetz have the best interest of the President and the agency in mind. So why wouldn't you not turn over all video footage to this committee?
Congressman, we will show all video at any time, day or night, that this committee would like to review the footage that we have. We have done that. In fact, the chairman was the first, I believe, to see this video before we showed.
With all due respect, that's not true. Go ahead, Mr. Gowdy.
No, I would
Chairman,
want.
I'd like to just correct it. If I have to correct the record, I'd like to correct it.
I would like to yield to the gentleman from Utah because I was under the misapprehension apparently that this committee was not in possession of all available video from that night.
That's correct. They are not in possession of the video, but we did allow the chairman to view the video.
You've shown us less than 1 minute of video.
Yes. Yes, sir.
Well, back to my question. Will you make all available video? And I say available because we're going to get in a second to the fact that all of it was not preserved. Will you make all available video available to this committee?
We will make all video available to this committee for your review at any time, day or night.
Will you make a copy of it available so we can retain custody as opposed to simply showing it to us?
I will not release a copy of this video at this point.
Why not?
The OIG has an ongoing investigation.
Do you think the OIG's responsibilities supersede those of Congress?
Sir, I know that they have an ongoing investigation.
Well, can't you have simultaneous ongoing investigations? Why can't Congress provide oversight while the IG is investigating? Why do you have to pick and choose?
Sir, again, I think we have one initial investigation from the OIG, and we've given them the film to look at.
But you understand the responsibility of the IG is very different from the responsibility of Congress. Congress determines funding, among other things. The IG does not. So those two are not exclusive. Why can't Congress investigate what's in its jurisdiction while the IG does what's in its jurisdiction?
Congressman, I'm sure after the OIG's investigation.
I don't want to wait till after, because then that makes me think that you believe that Congress's constitutional responsibility to provide oversight is subservient to the IG. And surely to the Lord you can't believe that.
Sir, the ongoing investigation that the Secret Service has as well regarding the protective intelligence case. We have an individual who committed a crime, made a threat, and that investigation is also going on at this time within the Secret Service.
And how will providing that video footage to Congress jeopardize that ongoing investigation? With precision, how will it?
That video shows the actions of the individual who would be accused of a criminal act.
I get that. My question is, how will providing that to Mr. Cummings and Mr. Chaffetz jeopardize an ongoing investigation?
Well, again,
with specificity.
I am happy to show that video all day and be available at all hours of the day and night to show that video, but at this point we cannot release that video.
All right, that's the video that is available. The video that is not available, will you agree with me that there are at least 2 potential crime scenes at play on the evening of March 4th? At least 2. There's an assault on an officer and there's a suspicious package.
That's correct.
All right, why would the video not be preserved as part of that ongoing investigation that you just cited as the reason you can't give the video to Congress? Why wouldn't you preserve it?
The process, my understanding of the process is that the watch commander on site relays back the incident that he is the incident commander for, and he calls back to our Joint Operations Center and says, we do have an incident here, we have a suspicious package, preserve the video from this incident.
Director, I'm out of time, but I want you to consider for just a moment the dueling narratives that you had just portrayed.
Sir.
Number one, we're not going to give the video that does exist to Congress because its investigation is subservient to the IG investigation. That's narrative number one. And narrative number two is you're not even going to preserve video that could be used in a investigation of 2 potential crimes.
For Director Clapper and Deputy Secretary Work, I sit on a joint task force along with Mr. Calvert and Mr. Wenstrup that was looking into the manipulation of intelligence at Central Command. Have both of you had a chance to read the interim report that the task force filed?
You mean the committee report?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, I've read it.
Mr. Work?
I've not read it in detail, sir.
In that, there are pretty clear cases of intelligence manipulation, and my question is, what accountability for any person associated with that has been held to date? Mr. Work?
Sir, what we have been waiting on is the completion of the IG investigation.
Mr. Work, it's been, just for the record, it's 2 years. We have soldiers in the field, and we had intelligence that wasn't getting to the right place to keep these young men and women safe so that we could make good policy decisions. It's been 2 years. To tell a soldier that you're waiting on an IG report is unacceptable. Tell me who's been held accountable.
I would have to ask Undersecretary of Defense Letcher if any particular people have been held accountable. What the Secretary and I have said over and over and over again, we expect the highest standards in the intelligence community.
Did we get that, Mr. Work? Did our soldiers get that?
The IG report will tell us, but as Director Clapper spoke to, the overall assessment is that we are improving.
I have to tell you that the American people and our soldiers and sailors, airmen, and Marines deserve not to wait 2 years to hold accountable folks who put bad information in the field. Director Clapper, there are reports, press reports that indicate that there was information withheld from a presidential daily briefing until after General Austin had testified. Are you aware of the reports, and if so, are those reports accurate?
I'm aware of the reports, and the examination done by our analytic integrity officer didn't find any substantiation of that.
Great. Thank you, Director Clapper. Director Clapper, President Obama removed Iran Air's designation as a proliferator of weapons of mass destruction on January 15, 2016, as part of the JCPOA. Did Iran Air's activities change in any way to prompt this removal?
I don't think we've reclassified Iran.
Right, no, that's my question. But the President removed Iran Air's designation as a proliferator of weapons of mass destruction and a provider of material support to the IRGC as part of the JCPOA, or simultaneously with the JCPOA more properly. Can you tell me if Iran Air's behavior changed in any way or has changed to justify such a removal?
I have a plane to catch tomorrow afternoon. I'm not going to go through any more of the false statements, but I am going to ask you to put on your old hat. False exculpatory statements, they are used for what?
Well, either for a substantive prosecution or for evidence of intent in a criminal prosecution.
Exactly. Intent and consciousness of guilt, right? Is that right?
Right.
Consciousness of guilt and intent. You would also probably, under common scheme or plan, argue the burn bags of daily calendar entries or the missing daily calendar entries as a common scheme or plan to conceal. 2 days ago, Director, you said a reasonable person in her position should have known a private email was no place to send and receive classified information. You're right, an average person does know not to do that. This is no average person. This is a former First Lady, a former United States Senator, and a former Secretary of State that the President now contends is the most competent, qualified person to be president since Jefferson. He didn't say that in 08, but he says it now. She affirmatively rejected efforts to give her a state.gov account. She kept these private emails for almost 2 years and only turned them over to Congress because we found out she had a private email account. There's nothing to keep a future Secretary of State or President from this exact same email scheme or their staff. And my real fear is this. It's what the chairman touched upon. This double-track justice system that is rightly or wrongly perceived in this country. That if you are a private in the Army and you email yourself classified information, you will be kicked out. But if you are Hillary Clinton and you seek a promotion to Commander-in-Chief, you will not be. So what I hope you can do today is help the average person, the reasonable person you made reference to, the reasonable person understand why she appears to be treated differently than the rest of us would be.
I want to follow up on a question from Mr. Whitfield. He asked you for precedent about going beyond the source under 111D, and you cited the Clean Air Mercury Rule. Are there other precedents that EPA has for going beyond regulating existing sources?
Well, we actually don't think this is going beyond existing sources because it is focused on the fossil generation and all.
But you gave him an example where you'd gone beyond the actual source, and you cited the Clean Air Mercury Rule. Do you have other examples like the Clean Air Mercury Rule? Yes or no?
No, the other examples are industry-specific like this one is.
Right, and under the Clean Air Mercury Rule, there was nothing outside of regulated sources that you attempted to regulate. You could trade amongst the regulated sources, but you couldn't go beyond that to appliances as you are proposing here. Is that correct? It's a yes or no question.
That's right.
And my recollection is the Clean Air Mercury Rule was overturned.
But not on that basis.
So it's no longer in effect.
It is no longer.
Right, so it's gone. It was unlawful. It was lawless, much like what you're proposing here. Yeah. Let me talk about, have you met with John Podesta in the course of developing these regulations?
I have.
How many times?
I don't recall.
One time, 3 times, 5 times? You have an estimate?
Does
he have a parking spot outside your building?
Not that many.
Is it infrequent?
It is infrequent.
Okay.
Infrequent.
How many times has your staff met with he or someone else at the White House on this set of regulations?
Not to my knowledge, or infrequently.
And Ms. McCarthy, has she met with Mr. Podesta as well on this set of regulations?
I expect that she has.
Can you get me the information about the frequency of those meetings, the location of the meetings, and the subject matter of those meetings?
I will take that back.
No, that's not the question. The question is, can you get me the information?
I know. I will take the question back.
Great. This is about politics, right? That's why Mr. Podesta is over at EPA working on this. This isn't about law. We've talked about that. It's about politics. It's also not about science, and I want to turn to science now. I talked with Ms. McCarthy about this. I want to make sure nothing's changed in your view. So you have now 30 indicators. You've gone from 26 to 30 indicators on your website about how you measure the impact of what you all call climate change today. So I want to ask you a series of yes or no questions about this set of regulations, these carbon regulations, and what you think they will do to the indicators that EPA uses. So, yes or no, will this set of rules, when fully implemented, reduce sea surface temperatures?
I can't answer that. I don't know.
Will this reduce ocean acidity?
It will contribute to reducing ocean acidity.
Do you have the data to support that? And can you tell me how much and when we'll see reduced ocean acidity as a result of these regulations?
You can't predict the impact on climate this way.
I'll take that as you have no idea. Is that a fair statement? You don't know.
No,
do you have any science to support the reduction in ocean acidity connected to these rules?
We have science to show that increased carbon in the atmosphere leads to things like ocean acidity, and if you have less carbon in the atmosphere, you will...
Decreases in lake ice. How much less lake ice will there be as a result of this set of rules?
The same answer I gave you before.
Right. You don't know. The answer is you can't show me how much less lake ice. I'd just like to see the data. If you're proposing a set of rules and you have indicators, it would seem reasonable for the citizens of America to demand that you say, hey, we think this is the impact, and so this is what you're going to get in exchange for all the costs that we've all talked about this morning. This is what you're going to get. You're going to get this much less or this much more of something that's really good.
But that's not the way climate science works.
Right. Yeah. Science used loosely.